Trying to improve your posture, your mobility, or get out of pain can be extremely difficult.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating.
So my goal today is to share with you the #1 tip I've learned in 10 years of personal training and rehab that has now helped me improve all of these factors for both myself and my clients. And that #1 tip is to find the zone of apposition.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Well, I'm glad you asked. The zone of apposition is a term utilized by Postural Restoration Institute. The zone of apposition is where the diaphragm and the pelvic floor sit on top of each other in sort of a cylindrical, plunger-like effect. The zone of apposition can also be referred to as the stacked position. There are a couple of people that like to utilize that instead of zone of apposition just because it's kind of a mouthful.
Zone of apposition.
I like to look at the zone of apposition as being when you fully exhale, your diaphragm ascends fully and touches every single part it possibly can of the innermost portion of the rib cage. When this is properly executed, we create a suction effect within the thorax. That then allows for the guts and everything to ascend and come up, and it allows for proper pressurization of the intestines, the abdominals, in that core brace that we're looking for. This essentially allows for distal or the further out joints, such as our shoulders, our hips, knees, ankles, wrists, pretty much everything away from the thorax to move more freely. Without a proper zone of apposition, these joints then have to work a little bit harder and will reduce their mobility or bias themselves in different positions. So this is where we can see different things such as a reduction in shoulder internal rotation, a shoulder that's lower than another, a hip that's hiked. It doesn't matter what's presenting. The first step is to find this zone of apposition. Let's bring in an analogy to this. Say I just bought a house and I decided to put all new siding, paint, I redid the windows and I redid the doors. But whenever I go to open these windows and doors, or things don't really match up. The door gets jammed, I can't lock it properly, I can't lock the windows, they're a little crooked. And this is due to the foundation of the house just being a little off. So I wouldn't blame the doors or the windows for the whole house being off. Instead, I would contact someone, probably a structural engineer of some sort, to come in and assess how I can make the house a little more even. This is very similar to the body. In this circumstance, I'm referring to the alignment of our diaphragm and the pelvic floor as the foundation of the house. When our foundation is off, things don't align as properly as they could. So the zone of apposition, in my opinion, is what we seek after when we're trying to achieve proper posture. Many people look at proper posture as shoulders back and down, neutral spine, pelvis in a good position. I don't believe this is incorrect, but we're putting our efforts in the wrong place. We want all of those neutral positions and good posture, but we don't get that from holding our shoulders down and back or bracing our core. We instead get that from a nice, relaxed posture that we get utilizing this zone of apposition technique. So if you're still with me at this point, let's look at how to achieve a zone of apposition. So there's many ways you can do this, but in one of the easiest ways, it is just to find a full exhalation. So no matter what position you're in, what you're doing, you can find a zone of apposition all the time. So simply just sitting here right now as I am, I can fully exhale, and that would most likely get me close to what is a full zone of apposition. Now, there are a lot of different positions and movements that really enhance this, but one of the main ones that postural restoration likes to utilize is the 90-90 hip lift. That is a fantastic exercise and a good starting point, but if I had to make a modification, and what has worked well for myself and other clients is to put someone in more of a hook line position first to then learn how to breathe. Another great exercise would be quadruped breathing. I find that to be very, very useful to find this stacked position or zone of apposition. Now, there is a caveat to this. The first thing is that the zone of apposition is simply a starting point. It is how you get everything stacked over top of each other. You find the foundation of your house, and then from there, you can move to more specific or complex variables, such as improving a left shoulder internal rotation versus a right, so on and so forth. The second thing to consider is that when we exhale, we're not trying to be forceful with this. So I don't want you to think you have to brace with your six pack. It's not about how hard you can exhale, but rather how long you can exhale over time. Though some people need that forceful exhale, not many people do. And in many circumstances, I would rather them start of just breathing out and in through their nose versus trying to brace their core and feel everything turn on. This allows for the deep abdominals, such as the transverse abdominis, the internal obliques, to really get a chance to fire up, whereas the six pack can sort of steal the show at times. So to recap with this information, the zone of apposition is when the diaphragm and the pelvic floor stack over top of each other. This is what we should be focusing on when we're trying to achieve good posture. This positioning allows for proper use of our abdominals and then allows for freer movement or more mobility at distal joints. So if you're looking for more help with these postural issues or lacking mobility, I've got a playlist right here that'll help you out a ton.